All right, what is up, guys? I hope you're doing well. So James here from jamesdforsythe.com. Um, I was going through the Federal Reserve Board of Governors website this morning. I'm doing some more research on a future blog post on SOFR. And I just happened to see in their news events or this basically they did their hypothetical scenarios or whatever you want to talk about, and when they're doing the bank stress tests, right? And so I'm just kind of curious, like what banks were they actually looking at and what exactly are they testing? Like, obviously, like failure to some extent, but what are the exact nuances in that? Um, and so things that include are basically what they tested for was subject to global market shock or subject to counterparty default in terms of ones that have large trading operations. Anyways, we'll head right into the screen share so you guys can see it here. Okay, and try not to get ahead of myself. And this is for 2022, right? And so basically, what the Fed does is they do these hypothetical scenarios for its annual bank stress tests, basically taking the financial standard or well being of the current banks um, and seeing how they'll do up to some basically running simulations, like can they survive some form of extreme amount of stress? And so they have certain parameters that they include. And so basically, it's to help ensure that large banks are able to lend to households and businesses even in a severe recession, so still function, right? And so these stress tests evaluate the resilience of large banks by estimating losses, net revenue, and capital levels, which provide a cushion against losses, right? The capital levels do. And under hypothetical recession scenarios that extend more than 2 years into the future. So this is not just like a short-term two-quarter recession. It's a 2-year long significant ordeal. And part of the parameters that they use it to kind of implement this stress, right? Saying, okay, if US unemployment rose to peaking at 10% over the next 2 years, there was a 40% decline in commercial real estate prices, widening corporate bond spreads, and a collapse in asset prices, including increased market volatility, right? Um, and one of the things to note is all of this data is as of September 30th, 2021. So that's 10 9 months ago. Um, but really, the most interesting part, and the reason I found this, and I posted it on Twitter, like a link and everything, um, to this morning, and which is why I wanted to do this part live. Um, is because, I mean, look at subject to global market shock, and it's Bank of America, Barclays, Citigroup, um, another bank that I'm not very familiar with. Um, and with that one, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, like pretty much all of the big name commercial banks are on the subject to global market shock list, right? And then they also have the subject to counterparty default. And this section is for basically banks that have substantial trading operations to where having to worry about your counterparty defaulting is a big deal. It's not just, and I think they did it based off of their largest counterparty, I think by volume. Um, and much of the same banks, but also like the Bank of New York Mellon Corporation was in here, which I forget why this one is special. I think it's the one that's the custodian for the ADRs, or maybe that's JP Morgan. I don't know. I think there was two at one point, and then they switched over. But I may be thinking about something else, to be honest. Um, but yeah, pretty much it. I just kind of wanted to get this out there because they even had to revise the data, right? And this is kind of like this report was revised on February 11th, 2022 to reflect the deletion of an imprecise comparison of the paths of GDP for the current and 2021 severely adverse scenarios, right? And so maybe this might have something to do with the fact that we had a negative GDP print for Q1. Um, maybe. I guess we'll see what happens for Q2. It's the middle of June right now, so whenever that's over and the data comes out. But yeah, definitely check this out. There's I like to have other like related things you can go to if you want. But yeah, just pretty much wanted to share, do a little quick video. But yeah, anyways, I'm holed up in the Airbnb because I'm still out of town, so kind of improvised. As you notice the change in background and everything else. So, anyways, I'll leave it at that. So I hope you guys have a good night, and I'll see you on the next one.